I'm doing good, Kai. How are you doing?
Like, real good, man, real good. Good to talk to you. It's good to finally have you here with Abeng. Been a long time in planning. Can you first tell the readers what's the concept behind roots and culture media?
Well, it started out really as a gallery that had begun in Guyana and by a group of artists back in the early 80s. And many of them had migrated and the group had sort of loosely arranged. And I suggested that we have an extension of it into North America. And when I set up all of that up, I realized that the medium, we needed more access to a wider range of audience. And so I began to think about producing other kinds of media and writing also. So Roots and Culture Media is really an attempt then to consolidate all aspects of the arts and provide a forum that people can express themselves.
Who some of those artists were?
Well, you have people like Dudley Charles, people like Gary Thomas, people, one of the benefactors was Carmel Williams, a band player, Omodele, Lumumba, and about 4 or 5 others. Winston Strick was an important figure in that, Ras Aita, but those were the core of it.
So how did you get into filmmaking?
Well, it's not exactly clear. It's more by default, because I'm not really trained. I did do a course in college on film and another course on television. And then many years later, almost 20 years later, I had helped produce a local TV program for the public channels. And I realized the power of it, or reinforced the power of the media. And then I decided to do the project, the Rodney project, which had been languishing for 30 years, and no one seemed to either be inclined to do it. And so I decided that would be one of my first.
One of the biggest challenges in years like the what would you say that is?
I think most people you ask that question to, including myself, people would say the money. Right, and because the money answers a lot of questions. But at the same time, if money is the thing keeping you back, then you'll never get it done, because you'll never get the money. You'll never have enough, even if you get money.
Right.
So yes, the biggest problem is the money, but if the money is going to stop you, then perhaps this is not the thing for you. Artists on the whole, and I don't really consider myself an artist, even though, you know, I'm in the arts, they don't produce work because of the money. They produce because they have to, and they can't exist any other way.
You have to get that voice out.
Right, they have to produce or they're just wither and die. And
Right.
so, right, ordinary people are concerned with money. People who are serious are not concerned with money. You know?
That's a very true statement, man. That's a very true statement.
Yes, yeah.
Because writers, you know.
Money can't save us is the final analysis. And it wouldn't save the arts. The arts exist in our genetic, historical memory and makeup. And that cannot be purchased. The people try to buy it, but it defies evaluation. You know, we just loan our creations to the society because nobody can really pay for what people create.
So let's talk about one of my favorite documentaries of all time, which is War Stories, Anthony Rodney's story.
Well, this was around, well, thank you first of all for the compliment. Sometime around 2006, I was still producing the local television show, and I toying around with the idea of what to do with this new tool, and being, a little familiar with what had happened to Walter Rodney, the importance of Walter Rodney to Guyana, to the Caribbean, to Africa, to the world. It seemed like a project that would be important to the entire planet.
Since the government itself has taken over so many facets of economic life, has nationalized the bauxite, has nationalized sugar, has nationalized a number of private firms, justifiably so, it has taken up a position as the principal, far and away the largest single employer in the country. Consequently, the ground is really set for the utilization of this device of the party card, of political control by means of denying the right to work.
So it took about 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, about 4.5 to 5 years to actually get everything done and edited. And then the putting together of it was very easy because the story of Walter Rodney is a dramatic story, and it's very hard to mess up a story like that. I mean, I'm sure people can do it, but it has a soul of its own.
Yeah, you and I have a common interest in that because we're both kind of determined to keep his memory alive. This image, this iconic figure, going, keeping the story going, keeping the narrative going, because I think it's very, very important that especially the youth of the Caribbean, the youth of Guyana know who he is. Because I was telling you a story that he was talking to this young guy, who really didn't know who Walter Rodney was. I mean, he told him the dramatic ending of Walter's life. The guy looked at him with amazement. He never heard of that. The guy lives right in Guyana. It's up to us as writers and filmmakers and to really tell these stories that are important for us and as people and as a community also, you know what I mean? Okay, tell me some of the challenges that you face making this specific film.
Well, this was, there wasn't that much of a challenge. I think you would think a figure as important as he, and who had been gone for 30 years, that there would be some difficulty. But on the contrary, people were very enthusiastic about it. His name, Walter Rodney, is still very important all across the globe in intellectual circles and grassroots circles. And they were anxious to tell the story still, and to venerate someone who they knew and who they loved. And that certainly came across in what they had to say. In fact, they were wondering, asking where I had been all this time. Why had I not come earlier? And I have to be clear that this wasn't entirely my responsibility. But as I said, people all over the world were enthusiastic about it. I still believe that though I had never met Walter, that he certainly took my hand and showed me ways of doing this, and introduced me to people that I would not have normally been introduced to, gotten to know.
One of the things that Walter said that was always important to me, and said, we cannot let racism and white supremacy deprive us of the most important things white people have said, talking about Marxism.
And in a way, he showed me how to do this project.
about like something that you may not have known about the incident or these people? Were there any surprises? Something that kind of like, was it like an interesting fact to you?
Well, no, as I've stated that the one of the interesting things that is that deep, abiding and remaining love for Walter that that still came out after all these years. But one of the peculiar things is that the people in Africa did not know a whole lot about what happened in Jamaica. What happened to Walter in Jamaica. And the people in Jamaica, many did not know what happened in Africa. Similarly, people in Guyana did not know about Jamaica or about Africa or even in the US. So people were unfamiliar with what Walter had done in other parts of the world. His work with the IBW, the Institute of the Black World in Atlanta, for example, is a very little known episode in his life. And a very important one because, yes, because through Atlanta, he was able to liaison with people like Ralph Abernathy from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Martin Luther King had been dead for some time, but the group was interested in what Walter had to say. People like Robert Hill, people like Ron Daniels, Manning Marable, all these people were at IBW at that time and were influenced by what Walter had to say, even then, and still do, even now.
Well, I think you mentioned before that you didn't meet Walter personally. Did your paths ever cross? I think you said that though your paths didn't cross, you did have a spiritual connection by doing this film, by doing this autobiography.
But as I said, I've come to know him through his writing and through some other kind of connection that I leave for other people to explain. But I do feel that the experience of making the film introduced me to him and transformed my life. It continues to transform the lives of the people around me as well. And hopefully the product of our relationship, that is the relationship between Walter and I, will continue and transform even more lives, because after all, that is what we're trying to do, to venerate him, to kind of bring him back to life in a way, as though introduce new people to him, especially the youth, and carry on as Angela Davis has recently said in her talk in New York last Friday, where she talked about us being the imagination of ancestors. And I think that is an important idea and a concept on many levels, because it is, after all, history must live in the present. And what the ancestors were thinking while enslaved, the ideas of freedom, is the ideas that we have to imagine and to continue, because we're not quite there yet. And the beauty of the concept is that we are actual living the memory of people that had passed on. Walter is one of those imaginations that carried on from that period and gave us a blueprint and a template for us to carry on. So yes, we may not have met him, but we were part of his imagination.
I recommend to everybody that they get this documentary. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. I think a lot of it has to do with my connection to the whole the Rodney story, but I really think the film was well done.
Well, first of all, thanks for the compliment about the film. I really appreciate it. It's good to know that, and coming from you, someone who's familiar both with the whole pantheon of personalities like Walter, and so it's always good to know that people who know the work understand it, like it.